receive a copy of our information-packed slide deck when you attend the webinar live. Register now to attend, and we will see you at the webinar on Thursday, May 27th. Stay safe. A string of challenges is plaguing the travel, tourism, and hospitality industries, with an ongoing decline in room occupancy, flights booked, cruises planned, and other vacation reservations being made. COVID-19 restricted travel for 91% of the global population. But even post-pandemic, the way we travel has been altered, and the destinations available for vacationing are limited. Many locations are not fully reopened or have set stringent guidelines limiting capacity, amenities, and services. While tourism is experiencing a slow in demand with a reduction in travel for both business and leisure, the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of IoT and stimulated the transition to Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0, also referred to as digital transformation, refers to the fourth industrial revolution, which is the trend of automation and data exchange using smart technologies. As many resorts, hotels, and vacation rentals sit dormant, it may be the ideal time for those in the travel industry to learn about connected solutions, create a digital strategy, or integrate new technologies. Perhaps an upgrade in Wi-Fi speed, network capacity, and new high-tech features can set your establishment apart from your competitors and attract a new clientele willing to pay more for convenience by means of technology-enhanced, personalized experiences. To learn more about the evolution to smarter, faster, and more high-tech means for travel, or how to prepare for the digital wave breaking the mold for travel as we know it, register to attend The Future of Smart Travel on Thursday, June 24th, presented by Industry.
Hello everyone. Hello India. Welcome to the webinar. We'll get started promptly at 11, but in the meantime, go ahead and welcome Ramesh from the Bali channel. Got an excellent webinar for you today. Very knowledgeable. Super excited. Feel free to leave any questions you have in the chat.
Tiffany, hey. Can you hear me okay? Hi, can you hear me okay, Tiffany? Somehow your audio is not coming through. Let me make sure. Yes, but very feeble. Can you say something? There's a lot of static, and let me check if it's anything on my end. I'm going to switch over to my AirPods.
A lot of this morning, so I'm guessing the computer is a little poor.
Good morning, you guys. Good morning, Ramesh. Good morning, Tiffany.
Jennifer, I can hear Jennifer just fine. Tiffany, there is still a bit of static on your end.
How are you doing this morning, Ramesh?
I'm doing fabulous. I can't complain. How about you?
Good. I'm in Portland today. I've been kind of traveling around.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it seems like the flights everywhere is going full, right?
Well, I've been driving. I have not gotten on a plane yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
Not that I'm
Smart.
opposed to it, but I haven't had to do that yet. I've been
Yeah.
West Coast.
Okay.
A lot of domestic travel, we'll call it roadside domestic.
Yeah, exactly. Expand. Some reason it doesn't want. It doesn't like my AirPods, I guess.
Well, even for me, when I try to use my AirPods, it's like a lot. Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you're much better now. What did you do?
We had it working this morning, but we had some, internet connectivity challenges. So we were on the phone with our provider all morning, and got a lot done
Oh,
morning of the webinar. But making it
Yeah.
happen. So thank you.
yeah,
for
yeah.
all the hard work on that.
Yeah. It's been an ongoing issue for you guys, right? Last couple of weeks.
Yes, I don't know what's going on, but if anyone out there is with Cox, they could let them know that we're having some extreme challenges on our
Yeah.
area. Great.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we start when, Tiffany?
We will be
10:40.
starting at the top of the hour, so we've still got
Top of
about
the
another 20 minutes.
Okay, good. And then roughly how many guests?
Just the four of us that have been in the rehearsal, and then we'll have whoever's present from the people that we chose as winners for the contest will be featured at the end. So.
Got it. Okay. So the feed I see on chats, these are more like the guests who are.
Yep, those are different attendees, so you can engage with them during the webinar, and they'll probably have questions. So if you want to answer them in the chat as you're asking, then you can do it that way, as well as I'm sure since you got such an interesting angle that you're coming into the webinar with, that people likely have a lot of questions about AWS. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And they can see us now, correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'll try to be civil.
As businesses begin exploring the possibilities for digital transformation, it is imperative that IoT initiatives are eco-friendly enable easy recycling, reduce energy consumption, and utilize green computing to avoid further strains on our resources and the Earth. Resources such as food, water, energy, and climate are threatened by global warming, overconsumption, excessive waste, drought, deforestation, melting of the Arctic, and pollution of many forms. Ultimately, we are facing ecological collapse. In order to achieve sustainability and efficiency, we need connected solutions that are green, lean, and machine to machine. We invite you to join us on Thursday, April 29th, as Industry Insights Webinars presents Going Green with IoT. Our panel of thought leaders, experts, and solution providers will share the benefits that can be harnessed through green IoT technology, industry-specific barriers preventing IoT adoption, best practices for eco-friendly IoT deployments, and tips for how to include energy efficiency in your digital strategy. Receive a free copy of our information-packed slide deck when you attend the webinar live. We will also announce the winners of our Sustainability and Efficiency contests. Submit your nomination for the most sustainable and most efficient IoT solutions now through April 1st. More information on the contests and registration to attend the webinar are available at www.iotmktg.com. Don't wait, register now to attend. Going green with IoT. Don't forget to like and share the video. See you at the webinar. Submit your nomination for the most sustainable and most efficient IoT solutions now through April 1st. More information on the contests and registration to attend the webinar are available at www.iotmktg.com. Don't forget to like and share the video. See you at the webinar. With an ever-expanding number of devices coming online, communicating more data than ever before, the amount of data collected and communicated is growing exponentially. But more data can easily lead to more problems. Data security should be a top priority for all businesses, especially those deploying IoT solutions that have sensitive data and require siloed information along with access levels. Unfortunately, many businesses have not included data security into their digital strategy. The thought of becoming a victim of cybercrime tends to make people feel uncomfortable. But with the right data protection and cybersecurity strategy, these concerns can be put to rest. To learn more about how to secure your data, protect your personal information, identify potential risks, prevent network hacking, and ultimately stay ahead of threats, we invite you to attend our Big Data and Cybersecurity webinar, Demystifying Data Security, on Thursday, May 27th. Industry Insights webinars will bring together cyber intelligence experts and IoT ecosystem professionals for a live virtual event where we will highlight a spectrum of industry-specific challenges and solutions. We will also discuss use cases in which data manipulation, cyber attacks, and data loss could have been prevented with the right precautionary measures. As always, be sure to attend the live event where you can engage in our live chat and ask questions during our Q&A. Plus, you will receive a copy of our information-packed slide deck when you attend the webinar live. Register now to attend, and we will see you at the webinar on Thursday, May 27th. Stay safe. A string of challenges is plaguing the travel, tourism, and hospitality industries, with an ongoing decline in room occupancy, flights booked, cruises planned, and other vacation reservations being made. COVID-19 restricted travel for 91% of the global population. But even post-pandemic, the way we travel has been altered, and the destinations available for vacationing are limited. Many locations are not fully reopened or have set stringent guidelines limiting capacity, amenities, and services. While tourism is experiencing a slow in demand with a reduction in travel for both business and leisure, the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of IoT and stimulated the transition to Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0, also referred to as digital transformation, refers to the fourth industrial revolution, which is the trend of automation and data exchange using smart technologies. As many resorts, hotels, and vacation rentals sit dormant, it may be the ideal time for those in the travel industry to learn about connected solutions, create a digital strategy, or integrate new technologies. Perhaps an upgrade in Wi-Fi speed, network capacity, and new high-tech features can set your establishment apart from your competitors and attract a new clientele willing to pay more for convenience by means of technology-enhanced, personalized experiences. To learn more about the evolution to smarter, faster, and more high-tech means for travel, or how to prepare for the digital wave, breaking the mold for travel as we know it, register to attend The Future of Smart Travel on Thursday, June 24th, presented by Industry Insights webinars. Don't wait, register now. All right. All right, let's get everyone's mics turned on here and get ready. We've got about 10 minutes left before the webinar, and I appreciate everyone who's coming here early. Hello, how's everyone doing?
Doing good.
Good morning. Yeah, doing good.
Doing great.
Great.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Everyone's looking stylish. I love it. Perfect.
That looks great. All right, we're about to get going. I'll let you guys take it away. Have a great webinar.
Oh, Jen, you can hang with us for another couple minutes here.
We got nine minutes. And I gotta repeat this coffee.
All right. I'm so pleased to see what an international audience we have today. We've got Czech in the audience. We've got Mexico. We've got India. I saw the Netherlands on there, Belgium. I mean, quite the international crowd. So thank you so much for tuning in wherever you are, whatever time it is there. It's amazing. Alexander,
I have
how
one
are you doing
question since
today?
I see on the screen. Good. I'm in a hotel here since I'm traveling. Setting everything up. I'm not sure if my name actually appears here because it only says me on the screen. Is there anything I can change about that?
No, it actually, for you it says me, but we can see your name.
It does? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Just want to make
What
sure
about
everything
you, Bill? How are
is set up
you?
properly.
How you doing this morning, Bill?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. I'm dealing with these thunderstorms in Texas, but other than that, I'm all good.
We've got perfect weather, but we still managed to have internet trouble this morning. So, it's okay. We got past it. Never a dull moment. So I have a joke for you guys this morning. So what do you call the dead pieces of leafy green stuff at the bottom of a bowl of Caesar salad? The last remains.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
You look up green jokes. I know the best.
of course.
That was pretty funny.
So appropriate, Tiffany.
Fits well.
Green
I've got one
remains.
more. So then this one, I wasn't a super big fan of this one, but it is kind of funny. So what is green and loves camping?
Say that again?
What is green and loves camping?
I have no idea.
I
A
have
Boy
no idea
Scout.
either.
Oh,
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
yeah.
It's okay. A little comedy before we talk about these
Yeah.
serious environmental topics as well as
Yes.
doing the IoT.
I see Kerry on the presenter list, but I don't see him in the
Thank you,
tiles.
Ramesh. You're so observant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also thinking, is one person missing?
I'm trying to start it.
Oh, is it because he has not turned on video? Is that why?
It should be coming on now, I think.
Okay.
So I was watching a really interesting video that we shared on social, and it's about a $34 billion green energy island that they're building in Denmark. Has anyone heard of that project?
No.
It's pretty interesting. It's completely self-sustainable, and I think it's 128 square meters, so it's pretty large, and it's fully sustainable. It's got tons of different renewable energy resources and tools, and it's very sustainable. It's got all kinds of agriculture functionality on it. So very cool video there that we just shared yesterday on social if you want to check that out.
Good.
Now, since you mentioned it, it sounds familiar. Do you remember who's building it? Is it through the government or is it a private investment?
It looked like it was a combination, like a group investment. I mean, $34 billion is quite an investment. So I do believe it's a group of individuals. But I thought it was interesting because they said that they have 6 million people that live in Denmark, and they were looking for a sustainable solution that they, a large percentage of them wanted to move to this smart island that they would be able to. So it's supposedly able to be able to account for a lot of those people being able to live there. So
Hmm.
cool. It's like
And then
51
close
miles
to the
off
shore
coast
or
of
something? Okay.
Hello, Sweden. Nice. We've got such an international audience. Very exciting.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. Netherlands, France, Belgium, Czech, Mexico, India, Morocco, Canada, San Diego. I have no idea where's San Diego.
Yeah.
Carrie, it looks like you still might be having some connectivity challenges. Maybe try refreshing your browser. Or it could be your security settings. So check your security settings also. Hello, Mexico. Yes, Michael Rada, we will have to have you. Maybe I'll do an interview with you so you can tell us more about the Industry 5.0 environment. Like, why talk about 5G? Let's just talk about 6G,
Let's just leapfrog.
So he's got some very interesting ideas on Industry 5.0. Are any of you familiar with the Industry 5.0 concept. It's humans working with machines, so pretty interesting. Jennifer, you got some fans out there. See that? Yes. All right, we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. And we also have a lot of materials on these topics available on our blog on iotmarketing.com or iotmktg.com if anyone would like to do some additional research on these different subjects. And we also have an infographic that we'll be giving out at the end of the webinar. So anyone that sticks around until the end, you'll not only receive a free download of the information-packed slide deck, but you'll also get our Green IoT Best Practices infographic. So we've got a few free downloads for you at the end that you can look forward to, as well as the Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll get back to those at the end, if not during the webinar. And I'm sure some of the presenters, if they would like, they can chat and correspond during the webinar as well.
I'm going to drop a link to our blog section in the chat for after the webinar. Maybe now, or later.
And we may need to have tech support reach out to Carrie because he's having issues joining. All right, and Carrie, watch out for a private message on some tips for connecting your camera. Oh, it looks like he has got it figured out. Let's see. All right, should be showing up any second. All right, thank you, Jennifer Davis, for contributing to the content within the slide deck and for all of your hard work in making this possible. And also thank you to Johanna Speakman and Jason, Rose, Craig, and our entire team. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of you who are showing up today to hear more about this topic. And just as an FYI, we're not just talking about green IoT, we're talking about how to go green with IoT. So that's everything from the packaging that the IoT is coming in, being shipped in, to what happens when that IoT device is done and it needs to be recycled, reused, or put to rest, but it's not good to put those things in the trash. So those are a few of the topics that we're going to be talking about today. And I'm coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. And Jennifer, where are you coming or reporting in from today?
Today, right, I'm totally reporting in from Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
Lush
And what about you,
green.
Alexander?
I'm currently in Mesa in the greater Phoenix area. I'm spending some days on some farms out here in this part of the country. It's getting warmer in Arizona.
Yeah, I was going to say, just before it gets too hot, might be the best time.
Hello, Carrie. Don't know if he has the sound all the way on, but we'll circle back. Ramesh, and you're coming to us from Las Vegas as well, correct?
Yes, really happy to be in Vegas, and I have the pride and joy to be living in San Diego and Las Vegas at the same time. So if it gets too hot, I go close to the water. And if it's rest of the season, it's all in Vegas. So excited to be here.
And Bill, you just made a move. Where are you today?
Today I'm in Austin, Texas.
Austin, you have a new resident. He's amazing. He's Bill Pugh, and he's
the move from the Bay to Austin.
Excellent. And Carrie. All right, we almost had him on there. Okay, he'll be back, I'm sure. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So hello and welcome to the webinar. This is Going Green with IoT. I'll be your host and moderator. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and this presentation is brought to you by Industry Insights Webinars and IoT Marketing. So on the screen, you're going to see a big list of different topics that we're going to be covering during today's webinar. There's some suggested time frames for about how long each section will last, but we've broken the content into 4 sections. So we'll be reviewing the objectives, challenges, technologies, and forward-looking thoughts for going green with IoT. So there's a lot to cover, and we hope to have it done probably around 12:15, but so you can clear enough time. It may run a little over to 12:20 or so we have time for all your questions. And if you do have questions, be sure to drop those in the chat, and we'll get back to those at the end of the webinar or during if we can. And so let's go ahead and introduce our panel. So we've got Bill Pugh from Smart Connections Consulting. How are you doing today, Bill?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here with this esteemed panel of speakers. So I basically...
we'll do the introductions here in 1 second. I'll pull
perfect.
We're just doing a quick little intro with your first and last name here real quick, and then we'll wait for the explainer. And Ramesh Iliavali, and he is with SourceLogix, and SourceLogix is also one of the sponsors for our prizes that we'll be giving out as a part of our Green Lean Machine-to-Machine contest. How are you doing, Ramesh?
I am doing fabulous, and I'm impressed you got my full last name exactly right.
It took a lot of practice. I'm not going to. I'm not going to fib. It took a lot of practice.
Yeah.
And Carrie Babb is with Paradise Group for Sustainable Development. How are you, Carrie? Maybe a little sound issue still, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. Alexander Conrad is also with us from Conrad Agrar Consulting. How are you, Alexander?
Oh, good morning, Tiffany. I'm very, very good out here in the warm climate of Arizona. Thank you for having me on the panel. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I'm Tiffany Nielsen, your host and moderator. And now, Bill Pugh, I would love to hear more about your expertise. He is a partner at Smart Connections Consulting, and he's pretty much a smart city all-star. So, Bill, can you tell us more about your expertise?
Sure. So, I mean, I've done a lot in the connected space. Started off with wireless and things of that nature, but everything end to end in terms of connecting, whatever device it is, whether it be battery operated, continuously powered, various networking technologies. And I was an early employee with a smart grid company back in the early days when smart grid was just getting started, moved over to a smart city company that was acquired by Verizon. And subsequent to that, went on to advise a large number of cities, with respect to their strategy and execution plan for deploying smart city solutions. So as it stands today, I'm heavily involved in data and what has now become the greatest buzzword I've heard, digital twins.
Well, you certainly are an expert in it, and I always learn a lot whenever you are on our series. So thank you.
Thank you.
And next, Ramesh Iliavali. I'll say that a few more times. Iliavali. I've been practicing it all weekend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My background is mostly on software and software engineering. So I started my career writing C and C++ code for high performance applications. And then it kind of evolved into data. Worked at companies like Sony and Qualcomm and CoreLogic, which is a very large data provider, and ran phone.com as their CEO most recently. And then we started SourceLogix with the focus on IoT devices from a software standpoint and how we can enable devices to communicate with each other, as well as improve the latency, efficiency, as well as reducing the carbon footprint. So a lot can be accomplished through software, and that's what we'd love to do. And my real passion is to build teams globally, and I think it's a great leveler to have talent everywhere from the world to kind of solve really complex problems. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. And next we have Carrie Babb, but I don't think that Carrie has solved his connectivity. Oh, no, there he goes. He's joining us right now. Oh, let's see. All right, and Carrie should be on here in just a second, but we will go ahead and pass the baton to Alexander first so that he can give us a little bit of his background. And he's the founder at Conrad Agrar consulting. So without further ado, Alexander, tell us more about your agriculture background.
Thank you, Tiffany. Yeah, I'm originally from Germany. I live here in the United States for a couple of years, and my background is agriculture and mechanics. And a few years ago, I founded a consulting and engineering business. And what me and my colleagues do, we work with the manufacturer of agricultural equipment and providers of agricultural solutions, from software to analytic devices, and go support them through the product development steps to bring products to the market here that the agricultural industry really needs and also adopts. So we are the missing link, I always say, between the manufacturer of the products and the farmer, to really help them understand what where the industry is going, what we're looking for, and implement those tools in the fields. That's it in a nutshell. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Alexander. And he is the founder and CEO, by the way, just to be clear on that. And thank you so much. I think that you will contribute some amazing thoughts to the conversation. And Carrie, are you with us? Can you give us a short introduction on your background?
I hope so. Am I? Are you guys hearing me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Well, I'm Kerry Babb, founder and CEO of the Paradise Development Group, a group of consultants trying to do everything sustainable. We have an extensive use within our arsenal of IoT systems.
Carrie? Oh, he was on. Oh.
Hello?
Oh, there we go. All right, Carrie. We can hear you, Carrie. I don't know if you can hear us, but we can hear him.
All right, I'm hearing you now. Yes, thanks. Yes, Kerry Babb, founder and CEO of Paradise Development Group. Thank you guys for having me on this prestigious webinar today to discuss IoT systems, benefits, issues, and trends. I look forward to an engaging conversation and learning a lot, as well as sharing what I know. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carrie. We are very glad to have you with us today. And let's go ahead and get started here. First, I'll tell you a little more about myself. I'm Tiffany Nielsen, and I'm the host of Industry Insights webinars, which is powered by IoT Marketing. And I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer for IoT Marketing. But I've got a long history of events, going to trade shows especially, which I dearly miss. And to keep the IoT ecosystem connected, as things continue to transition, and also to provide a resource for people that are interested in adopting these technologies to learn more, we created this series. So we're very glad to have everyone with us today. And the objectives that we're going to start with are not only to do with farming. We're going to talk about green IoT. We're going to talk about smart agriculture. We're going to talk about the environment. There's a lot of and the smart environment. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics. But first, the state of the industry. Well, everything's advancing, but it's not necessarily completely new, because even in the 90s, Siemens was doing flood control. So using technology to help with environmental, managing the environment in a way that we can kind of not necessarily prevent, but we can mitigate how heavily we're impacted by some of these different changes in the environment. And so we're talking about green computing because as these billions of devices are getting rolled out across the world for Industry 4.0, that's a lot of data, and it needs to be done wisely, and it needs to be environmentally safe. So that's why we're here today, to help bring you some tools and guidance on making your IoT deployments a little more green. So why is this important? Well, it's important because 84% say that staying green and staying sustainable is going to be a key in staying competitive. So even if you're only here for business and not necessarily the environment, we're going to be talking about that too. And 63% of recent survey responders said that sustainability matters, and customers are willing to pay more for sustainable products and goods. So that's just a taste of why it's so important to go green with IoT. And we've got green computing and green networks. Ramesh, tell us about the green network side of things and what you see on ways that you can go green with your network.
Yeah, so there is quite a lot of disruption and innovation that is happening on the networking side. Um, I would say networking in general, there's on the one hand, we have more need for connectivity, better bandwidth, lower latency, things like that. But there's also a lot of innovation happening with networking on the edge. So you're minimizing the amount of data packets that need to be exchanged between the device and the controller. So there's quite a lot that is happening in that space.
Okay, great, thank you. And when it comes to green computing, I think a large part of that kind of goes with how it feeds into the grid. Bill Pugh, can you tell us a little bit about green computing?
Sure. I mean, when you're thinking about efficiencies and the use of data and edge computing and things of that nature, these things have to be powered. And as you're ingesting the data and you're processing the data, the strain that you're going to have on the grid as a whole is tremendous. I mean, you can look at what's the carbon footprint reduction of using AI, in the context of these smart city or smart grid applications. Grid resiliency is a huge deal, and the more that we put out on the edge, the more that we install different networks and things of that nature, the greater impact that we're going to have on the grid. And so we have to really start to be smart about how we're processing the data, what devices are being put at the edge, what their consumption is, on the grid overall. Because while you think that it's small, the volume and the magnitude of these devices that are actually out there create a significant impact, both from an energy efficiency perspective as well as from an environmental perspective.
Thank you, Bill. And when you look at reducing power consumption, you have to take into account that the more sensory a device has, the more power it's going to take in order to get the data that you're looking for. So it's not necessarily about more data, it's about the right data at the right time. And so these are some of the different applications for green IoT. It can be used for smart homes, it can be used for smart grids, it can be used for smart cities, healthcare, smart agriculture, and smart factories. And Carrie Babb, I know you have a lot of experience in doing a lot of these IoT deployments, and you are very passionate about going green. Why do you think it's so important to go green with some of these different applications? And can you give us an example of maybe some of the results that you've had with going green?
Yeah. Well, going green is I guess about climate change and climate resilience, and using IoT is one of the reasons that we can fast track reduction in global warming through the reduction in GHG gases and that type stuff. Going green, I mean, IoT also is very valuable in terms of engaging communities and connectivity and these things. I've worked extensively with smart cities. And smart cities, a lot of people ask what is a smart city, and my definition is a smart city is an entity or a city that engages the community in moving forward in a sustainable fashion, but using the available technology as it's needed, as it's used, as it maintains or corrects the ecosystems and these things. It's not just supplanting technology on an issue and hoping it goes away. It has to be engaged with the community, the people, and again, each city has its own secret sauce and its own uniqueness. So they require a variety of different solutions, as they say. There's also IoT in healthcare and especially agriculture, which we are doing a lot of these days. IoT is very involved in greening the open field agriculture as well as the controlled environment agriculture. Because with controlled environment agriculture, we can then actually determine the yield and the nutrition and the conditions that we grow our crop, and ensure that we grow it sustainably.
Thank you, Carrie.
Mhm.
And next, let's look at sustainability. So when it comes to sustainability, IoT can play a significant role by assisting to monitor some of these different things, such as water quality and consumption, as well as the air quality and climate, weather, environmental, atmosphere, and there's also energy consumption monitoring. And then it can also take action on that data and do some things like trigger a smart waste bin to get picked up by collections. It can control energy usage. There's smart buildings and infrastructure, there's green transportation, and there's smart irrigation for smart agriculture. So, Alexander, tell us about some of your experience with smart irrigation.
Yeah. So smart irrigation is one of the, I would say, the hardest topics, the most discussed topics these days of how to deploy IoT in agriculture, because water is a limited resource, and especially on the West Coast here in California, Arizona, Nevada as well, it's becoming increasing more and more difficult to get enough water to grow crops. So the more efficient you can use every single drop, the better it is. And IoT can make a big impact and play a big role in that. So I can give you one example. There is a company, they develop what they call a leaf moisture sensor. So pretty much it's the size of a staple, more or less, that you clip on a leaf of a tree. It's an almond tree, a walnut tree, a peach tree, whatever you're growing. And that little device constantly measures the chemical and the physical components and the structure of the leaf. And that way can send a signal to the farmer or to his platform and pretty much tell him how thirsty is that tree, so he can set up his irrigation accordingly. And that is one just really nice example of how IoT can really make an impact.
Thank you, Alexander. And for the people that are in the audience and in the chat, we have something in this webinar for everyone at any kind of level of knowledge that they're at. So we're starting out at a kind of broad point now. It is a high level overview, but we do have some more deep industry knowledge coming up in the technology section. So stay tuned for that. We've got something in here for everyone. And it is, the responsibility of all of us to use less water and not necessarily rely solely on IoT. So I do agree with that coming through the chat as well. Next, let's look at efficiency. When it comes to efficiency, there are IoT devices that always have to be on. It's like industrial settings or healthcare, but in some cases, you don't necessarily need it to always be on. It can be on using activity scheduling or with different reporting triggers. So, Bill, can you tell us more about how this always on versus, having the data that you need when you need it kind of comes into play with some of your IoT deployments?
Sure. It really starts with the use case. So what problem are you trying to solve? I mean, part of what I've seen so much in the space as a whole is technologies looking for a problem to solve, as opposed to identifying the problem. What is the actual use case that you're actually going after? As you mentioned, in a number of instances, you don't need a device that is always on. But even in that instance, what is the material science that's applied to the sensor that's being used? Is it efficient? Is it green? For all intents and purposes. And when does it need to wake up and send its information? In the area of water monitoring, you don't need the sensor on all the time. If you're just metering that to understand what the consumption is, that's one aspect. There's also another aspect of actually looking at water and leak detection. Now, in the instance of leak detection, you may want a constantly powered device, and then couple that with the metering, and now your insights start to tell you what was effectively pumped, what the flow, what the rate was, what the metering was, and you can identify, where your losses are. We lose a tremendous amount of water throughout the day. As millions are pumped, and so at the end of the day, you have a exact point where you need a constantly powered device. You have an exact point where you need a battery powered device, and the entire solution end to end needs to work in harmony. And so we've done this in a number of instances where we try to build out a fabric of connectivity, not any specific. I mean, there are low power wide area network technologies that can be used. But then your backhaul needs to be, we'll say, strong enough and broad, and the broadband connectivity needs to be solid enough that you can get this data back to its landing point in an efficient time frame. So there's latency that is considered and everything else. But when you start to really look at the use cases in a city, traffic being one of the big ones, that is a ton of data, which is going to take a ton of compute power, which takes a ton of always on devices. Totally different from a garbage can that needs to be picked up based on its fill level. So I think at the end of the day, it's really finding the right sensor technology, the efficient use of energy and the consumption of that, and the proper use case tied into the proper network.
Thank you so much, Bill. That was very well said. And there was a comment in the chat there that said, if every country's not on board, then what's the difference? And so if you're the only one in your neighborhood that's recycling, you're still making a difference. So I think it's everyone's part to play their role and do as much as they can to help the environment. So as far as the eco-friendly technology is concerned, there's reducing e-waste, and that comes not only with being able to reuse some of these different devices, but also by properly disposing of them, which we'll talk about more here in just a second, such as don't throw batteries in the regular trash. They could be taken to Home Depot. They've got a great program where they actually take the batteries in because they're made of rare earth minerals that are only found in China. So they are not easy to come by, and going and trying to find them out of a landfill is not going to be an easy task. So there's also reducing the energy usage and power consumption, which is one of the main topics that we're going to be discussing, and reducing the network size. So let's pause there for a second. And Ramesh, can you tell us more about why edge networks and cloud computing is so important when it comes to reducing the network size?
Absolutely. I think we've all seen kind of the disruption that cloud technologies bring in, where you're not managing servers and databases and things like that. And you're leveraging cloud providers, be it Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. But that is one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is when we talk about IoTs in general, you can always go build things from the scratch. You could flash your own device, you could put your own software, you could try and use some open source technologies that are pre-built, and so on and so forth. But there's a steep learning curve, and there's not a lot of focus put on power consumption or network efficiency. So our recommendation is always to kind of see what people have already been there and done that, and use battle-hardened models and software. For example, Amazon has a technology called AWS Greengrass, where it is highly optimized for communication between the device and the edge to the cloud. So that would be kind of our general recommendation there. In terms of optimizing power consumption and network packets and security and load distribution, it's best not to focus on those aspects as you're thinking of building your IoT. It's best to solve from what's the business problem that you're trying to solve, like Bill mentioned, and then come up with a solution. Because a lot of vendors would love to sell you scalability solutions and security and others, but you got to really ask yourself, what problem are you trying to solve? If the device is not always on, that takes a very different architecture path compared to something that needs to be always on. So just keeping those things in mind is not only going to help you in being eco-friendly, which is ultimately all of our goal, but it is going to directly create cost savings opportunity for power consumption, as well as reducing kind of the number of cycles that you have to go through with your fleet management and keeping all the devices up to date and secure.
Thank you, Ramesh. And some other tips are using load distribution as well as multi-hop routing. So those are some additional tips that you can put into practice to start greening the network side of things. And since we don't want the Earth to end up looking like this, then we need to come up with better solutions because we are facing ecological collapse. And I saw a comment there about, what's happening in the air with the jet streams. I'm not sure, but maybe IoT can help monitor those kind of things and get a handle on it so that, not only the machines are overseeing things, but maybe it takes an additional set of human eyes to be able to double check the machines work and make sure that we're all on the same path. And so looking at ecological collapse, it's actually marked as one of the 15 biggest threats to humanity and the earth, according to Wikipedia. And so there's the carbon emissions, and there's a lot of push right now for different ways to reduce that. And so what are you seeing, Carrie, as far as, I know that we just had the incident in Iceland where there were 40,000 earthquakes in 4 weeks, and then an earthquake, and then a volcano. And it was the worst, it hadn't even had an explosion in the past several thousand years. So, Carrie, tell us more about what you're seeing as far as carbon emissions and the impact on the climate.
Well, yeah, carbon emissions has gone, way out of control. And yes, IoT is a very effective tool in reeling back, people's carbon footprint and all the like. Because in all different industries, now we can double down, and we know that the cost of renewable energy is going way lower than the cost of fossil fuel electricity, grid electricity. So we need to implement tools that would help in reducing the carbon footprint of every person, starting with your own individual footprint. Businesses, government entities, and the like needs to get on board to reel in this climate crisis that we're going in. And as we know that carbon emissions, greenhouse gases, not just carbon dioxide, but methane and other greenhouse gases are the biggest culprit of our carbon footprint. Another avenue that we can help is with regenerative agriculture. Regenerating the soil, because with soil regeneration, we have carbon sequestration rising. We are finding out that there are numerous studies going on that are helping us to realize that we can trap carbon underground, which would help plant growth. So that's double indemnity. That's a double positive for us, and we need to study and implement these tools, in a more expeditious manner, so to speak. Yes, we had some earthquakes in Iceland, where we have an impending project, a greenhouse project. Fortunately, our greenhouses are earthquake resilient, hurricane proof, earthquake resilient, because we tend to look ahead of the curve to see how we could mediate risks before they happen and not wait until they happen. So the IoT is an essential tool in remediating the effects of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases on Earth.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And next, let's skip on over here to another slide about climate change and global warming. This is a great image that kind of displays that, there's only so much time and so many things that we can do. So we have to balance what's happening with, what can be done so that we can improve response times and limit the potential impact. And, Alexander, you had a great comment during rehearsal that I wanted to focus on this slide. You said that it takes a shift in mindset, and that's what's needed in order to really make a difference. Now, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I work with the farmers out here in the fields, a lot of them, challenges. When you talk about challenges, there are two challenges in my opinion, and the biggest thing is IoT is a vehicle and can support to help tackling climate change, but it cannot solve it. To solve it, it needs to be a total mindset shift of the consumers, the people who consume products, who purchase their groceries, what they buy, and the people who work in farming themselves. And I think to enable that and catalyze that, politics have to be on board to that too. Because to implement new technologies in the fields, look at a farming entity from the point most of the farmers get paid once a year. They don't get a paycheck every day or every week or every month. If you just grow 2 crops, let's say soybeans and corn, you get a paycheck twice a year, and you harvest once a year. And you are very hesitant, if it's he or she as a farmer, to be gender neutral, to implement new technologies that you're not exactly sure how do they impact your outcome, your salary at the end of the year. So and we need incentives for them, which I think from politics to really help them to apply these new technologies and yeah, an overall change of the mindset.
Thank you, Alexander. And yes, the oceans do need a lot of assistance right now because they are in a very delicate state. So one thing that I'm seeing is that they're doing trawling for trash, where they have these robots that are going underneath the ocean and they're pulling up the trash, they're sorting it, and they're also turning that trash into energy. So some very cool things going on there as well. And looking at waste and e-waste, well, as we've mentioned, IoT can play a significant role in monitoring how we're using waste, but it may also produce waste, and in that form, it's e-waste. So looking at that, and especially when it comes to batteries, I think there's a need for better batteries that can have improved energy storage, some hybrid energy storage solutions that incorporate renewables as well. Bill Pugh, what are you seeing as far as the batteries are concerned and how big of a role that is with these different IoT deployments?
You know, I'm seeing a lot. I mean, there are a significant number of startups and you know, existing companies right now that are heavily focused on batteries. And not, you know, when we say that, I think the mind automatically goes to battery operated sensors. But I mean, I'd like to step back and drive something that is a bit more impactful. Instances where grid resiliency is of importance, you have manned and unmanned substations. And when these substations experience their own outages for whatever catastrophic reasons, they tend to fall back to battery. And so the material sciences that are being used in terms of building these new batteries are, you know, that's huge in terms of impact on the environment, e-waste, sustainability across the board. So you need to have that just in that instance. And then when we start to look at the proliferation of EVs and fleets being charged and the drive to 2030, you know, no more gas vehicles and the things of that nature. You know, storage. What is the technology that we're going to use there, and how are we going to manage that in such a way that we have a positive impact on the environment and are able to not further damage the grid by reverse energy flow. So I'm seeing a lot of innovation take place in the market around that.
Thank you, Bill. You have so much information. I just love it. And next, looking at some technical difficulties. Well, there's interoperability, and that can be because multiple vendors and different standards. It could also be that there's security issues, and there could also be complexities because the more complex the solution is, the more power it draws, which kind of goes against the whole going green concept. So starting with interoperability, Alexander, can you tell us how you would approach going about a smart farm, for instance, and how you could get past some of these interoperability challenges?
Yes, that's a very, very good point, and one of a difficulty that I see actually in the real time almost every time when I'm out. To overcome these difficulties, the end consumer, and from my point of view, which is the farmer who grows the food, has to be part of the development from the first day. So we have to have their perspective into the consideration to when we come up with new solutions. And the reason for that is they're not looking for another additional tool on their farm. They're already so loaded and buried with work, and their day-to-day operation consumes so much time. So approaching them it has to be with an all-inclusive solution. It has to be a solution that is ready to go, that comes up with data that is already processed for them to make smarter decisions. It has to be a support for a smarter decision, because at the end of the week on Friday evening at 11 or 12 p.m. at night, I don't know any farmer who's going to sit down and go through a whole sheet and list of data and try to optimize it that way. It has to be a connected all-in-one solution with an algorithm that already helps him or supports him to make a decision quickly.
Thank you so much. And also, when you look at security, I mean, we've heard examples where one item, such as a connected coffee pot or a connected aquarium, could take down an entire factory that's connected. So in order to prevent one hacked IoT device taking down the whole farm, how would you go about protecting some of these different, either whether it's an environmental sensor or some kind of agriculture scenario? How would you go about protecting that data, Carrie?
Yeah, well, security is an extremely salient aspect of the whole connectivity. And as Alexander just mentioned about, you know, the interoperability of the devices, most systems would have these devices connected and connected to a cell phone or a tablet. So cybersecurity is of the key. It's of the essence, and you know, users have to stay, you know, steps ahead of the hackers, which, you know, the hackers are quite, you know, they're quite savvy. So that's one aspect, and even in terms of you know, the connectivity within smart cities and all the different elements of smart cities, especially energy. You know, it's pretty easy now. I mean, we are migrating to smart grids and these things, but it's pretty easy for a hacker to you know, initiate a denial of service or you know, implant a virus and take down a whole city. If the recommendation there is to do distributed energy, to have distributed energy resources where, you know, you have clusters of energy grids, and that offers some redundancy in terms of staying up. You know, the same can be done, you know, with the different devices within an industry, within you know, smart farming, or within manufacturing industry, where we have, you know, multiple devices on one network. You know, actually decentralizing these networks could bring about a level of security and give the hackers a little more work to do. But, you know, again, we need to stay steps ahead of them in you know, to keep our business always up. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And looking at some of these different barriers for adoption, I mean, obviously, smart farming's been in place for a while now. I gave the example about how Siemens has been in this business since the 90s. But there are some barriers that are going to need to be overcome, including the socioeconomic factors and biophysical factors for farmers. And Alexander, you brought up a great point earlier in one of our conversations where you were talking about how it needs to be user-friendly. Can you tell us more about what you're seeing as far as from the farmers on why it needs to be user-friendly and how we can make that happen?
Yes, absolutely. It pretty much comes back to what I mentioned earlier. Maybe I was a little too quick and early with that example. Like I said, their day-to-day business of a farmer, if it's he or she, is so fully loaded already. They're super busy. And I can give you an example. The farmers that I work with, I hardly can get them on the phone or get them to write me a text message. When I ask them a question, it's usually a thumbs up, thumbs down as a response. So there's not a lot of conversation. The average phone call I have with a farmer is between half a minute to 2 minutes. So they're super, super, super busy. And to approach them, they instantly have to see the benefit for their operation in a ecological, economical way. So how can they either save money on the input side or make more money by increasing their yield? And that has to be approached pretty much from the beginning. And like I said, yeah, and they're not going down, do not sit down at the end of the week or on a Sunday to go through a long Excel sheet of data. It has to be a solution that has to be all in one, very, very user friendly, and integrating into the system, the platform that they already have would be the optimal solution. And one thing I often see is that technology very often looks on finding the outcome of a problem that they see in agriculture instead of going to the real source, the cause of the problem. And that's one thing that I would highly suggest everyone who is out there developing IoT solutions or any product that goes into agriculture, go out and talk to the consumer, talk to the farmer from the very early stage and figure out what they really want, what they need, and work with them right from the start. That's the best approach that I can recommend.
Thank you so much, Alexander. And then one other topic that I want to highlight here is the standards and regulations. And there's definitely a need for public participation in some of these different green initiatives and green policies. And there's also a need for education. And so, Bill Pugh, can you tell us a little bit more about what you feel is needed as far as educating?
Yeah, you know, I mean,
going on with green IoT?
As technologists, innovators, practitioners, engineers, I mean, it's a lot for us. I mean, we get into engaging conversations across the board, but when you're looking at putting something out in the field or out in the wild, and you're saying, and this is for the good of the people, the citizens, the city, and what have you, there is a lot of education that has to take place. I mean, there's the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's associated with any new technology that's going to be rolled out is I mean, it's amazing. You know, there's not only the notion of, well, we're going to use these wireless technologies. Okay, well, what's that going to do to me? You know, how's that going to impact my life, or how's that going to impact my body? We're going to put these cameras out, and you know, oh well, what about my privacy, or what about my security? You know, and then you know, the cities already have already had for a number of years this existing networking infrastructure. So that's a cost impact, and then that drives the, you know, integration of all these new solutions back into their data centers, whether they're hosted or on-prem. And there's standards that are needed there. There's education of not only the cities, but the citizens and those that are being impacted by the solutions that are deployed, which drive the socioeconomic factors, you know, of these solutions that are put out there. So I mean, it really starts foundational as educating and being transparent with the citizens that are going to be impacted by this from the very beginning.
Thank you so much, Bill. And next, let's take a look at the technologies being used. And so we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive here. This is an excellent slide. Thank you, Jennifer Davis, for the contribution of this information. We've got the foundations of IoT technology on the bottom right, as well as the architecture of the networks, and some different technologies that are being used within the green informations and communication technologies. There's the green RFID, there's the green wireless sensor networks, there's green machine-to-machine, green cloud computing, green data centers, and green communications and networking. And I know we touched on this a little bit, Ramesh, but what is your experience with maybe some of these other green concepts, as well as not only with Edge, but in addition, how are they using this with Edge?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that I think is becoming more and more important is decision making with machine learning, right? So there is a lot of data that the other panelists kind of touched upon, where if it's always on or if it is reacting to some sensory events, regardless, data needs to be processed. It could be processed on the edge or it could be processed on the cloud, but there is going to be less and less need for human intervention, and making decisions based on machine learning models, predictive analytics, I think is going to be key, because the IoT devices can only do so much. They're reacting to the environment. They're sensing things and they're sending data back. But there needs to be a lot of intelligence. And I think that's where machine learning really takes center stage in making decisions, allowing these IoT devices to communicate and take action.
Thank you, Ramesh. And I'm sure that we could spend a significant amount of time on this slide, but let's go ahead and advance over here to green building. When it comes to building with green initiatives, there's the smart grid itself, as well as the push for renewable energy. There's smart buildings, there's smart infrastructure. And Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you approach greening smart infrastructure?
Well, it really starts with looking, the baseline. What do we currently have? I know that there's a number of instances and opportunities with respect to distributed energy resources, putting solar farms out there, all of these types of things. But that has a significant impact on the grid, and I don't think that I don't think that we inherently thought about what is that impact? Because I mean, you go back, 100 plus years ago, energy was only supposed to go in one direction. It was to be delivered, and it wreaks havoc on the grid just from a distribution perspective when you talk about how you're going to take that excess energy and put it back on the grid. So there's looking at what we currently have. Looking at storage, it's a combination, a full-on solution of how you're going to actually implement this, and the end result then is that you have a more green building, just from an energy perspective. But then when you look at the buildings, you've got the light pollution, so you got to have some level of intelligence built into your your entire building. So the glass, smart glass, your HVAC, when is it going on? When is it off? What type of compute power do you actually have within the building? How do you automate all of these things? So it's all kind of tied, and there's a common element to it, and that is the grid and energy services associated with it. So I think it really takes, again, a group of people to actually push these things and not silo the applications such a way that smart grid is it, or smart buildings is it, or smart homes. It's really energy delivery. How do we monitor, manage, and keep that grid resilient? And then how do we put newer technologies on that are going to improve the use of energy?
Thank you so much, Bill. And Carrie, you also had an interesting comment during the rehearsal where you were telling us a little bit about how it's about the materials that are being used, as well as how the building's performing. So can you tell us more about how to make better decisions when it comes to getting materials that are carbon friendly?
That goes to building infrastructure and the supply chain management. Whereas building buildings now, especially as Bill indicated, there are eons of buildings that's up already, and we have to do the best with what we already have. But in terms of new construction, if we can look at the materials we use to build, because I mean, concrete itself is very carbon intensive, and therefore should be sort of phased out. There are a lot of people in different parts of the globe that's going back to building with bamboo and wood. There's a new topic coming up where people are starting to use hempcrete, which is a concrete-like material that's made from hemp, the plant. So those things, the materials we use, even the pipes that we use need to be now, we need to have to measure their carbon footprint. And as Bill said again, it's a whole comprehensive effort. It's with taking different skills and expertise to plan these things and make sure that they are built efficiently.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Perfect. And so looking at smart farming here, we've got the sensing technologies, which we're going to talk a little bit more about on the next slide. There's also communication systems, there's hardware and software systems, and then there's the analytics, telematics, positioning technologies. And I know that, Alexander, you highlighted the importance of kind of getting an all-in-one solution for farmers. It makes a lot of sense, as well as the importance of smart irrigation. Can you tell us more about those topics?
Yes. So on what we saw about in agricultural 3.0 in the past. It was all about making machines like GPS guided, making them follow straight lines, and now within the what we call the next agricultural revolution, agricultural 4.0, now it's all about automation, digitalization, and machines that communicate with each other. So the big potential here is to change the way of how agriculture machinery is looking. And you can already see that. Over the last decades, it was always having tractors, combines, forage harvester, you ever name which machine is out there, being just becoming bigger, more powerful, wider, faster, more efficient. And as we see it, this trend is kind of like coming to an end slowly. And now it's more about autonomous robots that communicate with each other, that are deployed in crews of multiple machines, let's say 4 or 5 or 6 in one field, and they do the job that one tractor has done in the past. And they won't get tired, as a driver usually gets after 12, 14 hours in the field. And that will open a huge range of advantages and potential to have an impact to use resources more efficiently.
And to go a little bit further with that, Alexander, I pulled up another slide here. It's the AgTech slide where we're talking about the advanced sensing technologies. And so as these different, farmer robots are out in the field harvesting for the farmers, they are using this advanced sensing technologies to be able to not only identify what kind of fruit or vegetable it is, but whether or not it's ready to be pulled from the vine or the husk or whatever it might be. Can you tell us more about that, Alexander?
Oh yes, absolutely. That's already deployed in multiple different ways. Also, what is difficult, and it started out with let's say with what we call hard crops like an apple or walnuts that are easy to be recognized by artificial intelligence. So because an apple usually is in a round shape, and you can program and make the robot learn the shape and the color, and then harvest it. But when it comes down to like grapes or strawberries that are smaller and that are soft, so you have to really teach the machine, teach the robot how to handle this fruit, this crop, to not destroy it. And that's a huge challenge these days, because a human can, who harvests, knows how to take care about every crop, about every fruit, and that's a big challenge to get the robot to that point that it can do that.
Thank you, Alexander. And then also on this slide, we've got here the Field to Fork initiative, and that's becoming even more important as there's different standards that have to be abided by for e-agriculture, where they want to prove the entire supply chain for how it's produced, where it was produced. But it does create a more personalized experience for the end user. So it's got its advantages and disadvantages, but it does make it more complex. And here we've got some IoT ecology applications. And as much as I would like to dive a little bit deeper onto this, I know that we're kind of stretched for time, so I'm not going to dive in too deep, but it is important to monitor the irrigation, how much water, how many macronutrients are being deployed, and as well as with soil testing. I was a little bit surprised by the fact that it's done in a lab. I was under the impression that it was done by the farmers, but that is actually not the case. And so we're going to go ahead and advance past this to weather and climate monitoring. And again, this is super important because the weather is getting weird. Let's just face it. There's extreme weather left and right. There's wildfires, there's drought, there's a lot happening. And so it all comes back down to this predictive analytics. Ramesh, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, as far as weather sensing devices, weather is an extremely complex topic, which is why there are still supercomputers which can do a reasonable but not a terrific job. However, in sort of the macro climate, there's a lot of things you could do at the micro level. So conditions like humidity sensing, conditions like temperature sensing, they're relatively easy to do. And with machine learning, with predictive analytics, and the right kind of solutions on the software as well as on the data standpoint, you could make these devices a lot more intelligent and a lot more in tune with the changes to weather and temperature and so on.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. And so next, we're going to go with forward-looking thoughts, and these farms are just looking more advanced in each slide. So in this one, we've got some different use of AR and VR, which is being used for farmers. And again, it comes back to the concept of digital twins. So this may look super complex to someone that's just your average everyday farmer that hasn't been adopting some of these IoT practices. Bill Pugh, can you explain to us a little bit about how this virtualization of a digital twin of a farm might work, and how a regular everyday farmer might even get started with one of these initiatives?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, surprisingly enough, there's a lot of technology that's currently in place. There's the challenge is that the final mile, that connectivity is not there. But effectively using digital twin technology, there's a number of quote unquote digital twins. There is taking the data of all of your assets that are there and building out a model. And then, from there you can do a number of what if analysis to inform, where you might build or where you might put things, or how your automated tractor might run down the crop trails and what have you. But what we really would, at least from my perspective, what I would really look at is how frequently can I get the data from any of my connected devices, whether it be soil monitoring, whether it be my connected tractors, anything that is connected within my agricultural area, using a low power wide area network. I mean, I've seen an instance where LoRa or LoRaWAN is of an advantage there, but building out your own private network for this purpose, and then generating a digital twin of the real-time data that is as it's being used, will give you the opportunity to actually predict what's going to happen over time once you baseline that model and institute some level of machine learning and AI into those models. I see the notion of using digital twins being a huge impact going forward for areas such as agriculture or other network or connected areas.
And also on the environment as well.
Absolutely.
The digital twins be applied there as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent. So looking at some different trends we have here, there's energy harvesting, there's water monitoring and optimizing irrigation. And let's look at do-it-yourself green IoT projects. And Ramesh is a partner with Amazon, and their AWS platform offers a lot of different services and tools to help these do-it-yourself projects get off the ground. Can you tell us more about that, Ramesh?
Yeah, absolutely. Given the explosion of IoT devices and its applications in the industry, like I mentioned, a lot of the larger players like Amazon and Google and Microsoft and others, they're trying to evolve their cloud solutions to be more specific. So in Amazon's case, they have several solutions that are applicable for IoT from both a software and from a data standpoint. One thing I specifically want to highlight is called as AWS Greengrass. So Greengrass provides, think of it like an operating system for running your IoT workloads. So from the device, the communications infrastructure, to the actual software, to fleet management, to security, to distribution, patch management, a lot of those tasks, when you talk about IoT devices and the explosion of them, makes it really, really difficult to kind of manage in a streamlined fashion. So when you talk about DIY and getting started, my recommendation always is right on the coattails of what other people have already done. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. We talked in previous slides about the complexity of these IoT architectures. We talked about security issues with IoT. We talked about kind of the challenges that it brings about. I would say the best solution is go with standards, go with architectures and frameworks that are more proven, and it would be a faster, more accelerated path for you to solve true business, environment, and social problems as opposed to dealing with technical and foundational issues.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. And I think that's extremely important, especially when looking at some of these statistics that 74% of IoT projects are failing and a whopping 81% of industrial IoT applications are failing. And you don't have to just build everything from scratch on your own. You could use a platform like Greengrass and get your project off the ground and have it be more stable and sustainable. So I think that's very good advice. And we'll hear more about those solutions here in just a moment as we get closer to the contest. And then I do want to talk about the greenhouses, but I'm going to have you talk about that in just a moment, Carrie. And there's also the energy aware systems. There's the automation and cobots, which we're going to talk about a little bit more here in a second. But let's talk about 5G. And Bill, can you tell us your thoughts on is 5G safe for the environment? Is 5G actually going to do good for the environment? What are your thoughts?
You know, I think the jury's still out on that. I mean, one, we have to get a ubiquitous deployment of 5G, and that's the long and the short of it. To be honest, I think that there will be opportunities where it fits, but we've just got to get more of it out there right now. And the challenge, from my perspective, the biggest challenge has been finding use cases again. You know, right now the use cases just aren't there, but it generates a lot of heat. I know that. You know, it has to be applied in the right fashion. You know, we're going to continue with, you know, speeds and feeds, and we're going to continue with things like network slicing and things of that nature. But it's not the panacea. You know, at the end of the day, when we really look at a solution, there are transport options that fit those solutions, and 5G is one of the tools in the toolbox.
Thank you, Bill. And it just seems that with the 5G rollout, that it takes a lot of strain on what's the grid, on all of our resources in order to actually build those networks out. And if it's 100% without it being fully deployed, you just really have to weigh the pros and cons there. And so when you look at these global trends, and the Americas are getting drier, Australia's getting drier, the Arctic is melting, there is probably going to be a significant need for greener greenhouses so that we don't have a global food crisis. Yuri, can you tell us some steps about how a greener greenhouse even happens and what makes it green?
Yes. Well, I mean, we have had greenhouses for ages, but there is now need, because of global trends and climate change and areas getting warmer, cold areas getting warmer and warm areas getting colder. Using greener greenhouses by implementing sensors that monitor temperature, humidity, energy, water supply, water consumption and use, and even water conservation. These greener greenhouses will achieve this, and it also give you the ability to use solar as an energy source, or wind as an energy source, making it renewable and or it standard, as a standalone unit. Because of climate change as well, the greenhouses need to be climate resilient. Just taking back a couple of years, I know people who personally lost their entire agricultural crop due to 2 hurricanes hitting the Caribbean, in quick succession. And now they are building wind-resistant greenhouses, which folks should be looking at to employ. There's some greenhouses can withstand wind up to 185 miles an hour, and that's a Cat 5 hurricane. In Iceland, they're building greenhouses that are also earthquake resistant and could accommodate heavy slow load. And these are the aspects that would make greenhouses greener, apart from the smart technology within them to grow the crop, to accommodate higher yield and nutrition, and all could be done by smart technology using sensors, IoTs, machine learning, and that type of thing.
Thank you, Carrie. And then looking at some different areas for growth, I do see that greenhouses could be on this list as well, and also EVs because they are renewable. But since we're trying to stick to IoT, even though it's going green with IoT, we have these ones listed. And there's definitely a push for smart cities. And it seems that green IoT would just be a part of every smart city. Is it, Bill? Can you tell us more? Is green IoT a part of every smart city, Bill? Oh, I think we lost Bill. Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Well, if I could probably help Bill with that.
Absolutely. Go right ahead, Gary.
Yes. Yeah. Green IoT is absolutely, definitely a part for smart cities because as you know we mentioned before, all the different aspects of IoT that are there will could be used to green a city. For instance, sensors and beacons can be utilized and in apps to develop apps to indicate to people where the next green spaces in a city. Let's say you're visiting a city, you look at the tourism app and you can see where all the green spaces are, you can see where the health food stores are, you can see where the pharmacies and these different things are. Through an app using sensors, beacons, and IoT, you could see where the next major concert is. Even because of the push and pull of the beacons. So and that's just one aspect of it. Yes,
And one
greening
more
a city is.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
I was
greening a city or
good.
yeah, greening a city is also to bring about a higher quality of life. And yes, measuring air quality, water quality, and these things, IoT plays an important part in that.
So my follow-up question for you, Carrie, was as city planners and different city officials are looking at different ways to bring some of these green concepts into their smart city deployments or making their city smarter, what kind of advice could you give them on what the first steps would be to take?
Well, as Bill indicated before, because we're going around in a circle, it's the people first. We have to, analyze the needs and the wants, the ecosystems that exist in a city, and ensure that whatever we implant there doesn't, reverse climate change or reverse ecosystems development. We need to implant technologies that would enhance and not destroy, or bring in the people within the citizens of a city in the decision making. Just like in agriculture with the farmers, it would help them to understand the technology that's coming at them and how they use it efficiently. And that way they will tend to use it more than, if it's just implanted and you tell them use this. So yeah, those are recommendations I would make to city planners, that they involve the community in deciding what gets implemented and what not.
Thank you, Carrie. And then looking at the predictions, there's a lot going on with the farmers adopting these new technologies. And we've got this picture here where it depicts these cobots that are in the field pulling the different husks of corn as they're ready to be harvested. Can you tell us a little bit more, Alexander, about exactly how this is set up and what needs to be in place in order to make that work, and if it's actually working for the farmers?
Absolutely, Tiffany. I appreciate that you put that question forward that to me. So I like the setup of this slide a lot. I mean, we're not there yet that the robots harvest every single corn cob. Maybe we'll see that still within the next decades. So farmers will be pushed to adopt new technologies, which is the case. I think a lot will come from politics, and there have to be incentives in place that make the farmer want to go down that way. And but the most important thing is still the new technology has to tackle and address big issues, the biggest issues that are out there to achieve a farmer's attention. If you solve, or if the technology is up to solve a problem that would be just nice to be solved for him or her, it will probably be hard to deploy that. So, and the biggest issue these days out there is labor. it's labor. When you go from farm to farm and ask them what are you worried about the most, what keeps you up at night, it's always the answer is labor. It's not even water, as a lot of people would assume. It's labor. And that's why we see so many startups designing and building autonomous robots to help with those shortage and crisis of labor. So my prediction will be the ones who will be the most successful are the ones who address the biggest issues.
Thank you, Alexander. And thank you to everyone who has lasted this long in the webinar. I see that some people have to leave because it's getting late and on the other side of the world. So thank you for attending, and we are going to make the slide deck available for download now so that you will be able to take that with you and learn a little more on your next destination for whatever you have going on next. And so finally, this is our last slide before we announce the contest winners, and it is our tips. So we talked about, reducing, reusing, recycling, and throwing batteries away properly. Take them to Home Depot. They do take them there. Think sustainable, start simple, data security. Carrie, Bab, can you give us one final tip?
Okay.
For how to go green with IoT?
Well, one final tip, and this is not final, this is a tip that everyone should look into some kind of means using IoT or other type of tool to measure and reduce their individual carbon footprint, because it has to start with us. The machines alone are not going to do it. We need to put in place daily activities or reduce activities that contribute to climate crisis.
All right, thank you. And Ramesh, do you have a tip for us on going green?
I would say, be very intentional and methodical about introducing IoT devices. There is quite a lot of hype, and there are lots of vendors who would love to have you adopt their solutions, but try to really focus on the business problem, and you'll save yourself a lot of time and energy and power and all of that stuff. So just be intentional about your goals.
All right, and it looks like we're working on giving you the download of the slide deck there, but let's go back to the actual slide deck. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, so Alexander, do you have one final tip for us?
Yeah, I'm just comment with what the other two colleagues said before. I think every single person, every one of us can make a bigger impact on a daily basis by the choices we make, what we do, what we buy, far more than IoT will be able in the near future. So it's really up to us, the mindset we apply, the actions we do to make a difference already today.
Thank you, Alexander, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, use less water. If there's going to be a global water crisis, let's all do our part and just maybe take a little less long of a shower, or don't leave the water running, things like that. Everybody do their part, and if green IoT is something that you can put into practice and it can be a benefit to you and your business, by all means. I hope we've taught you some different practices and approaches to making a strategy that is a success. And so next, we're going to announce the winners for our Green Lean Machine contest, because it's great to be able to provide this information, but it's also great to know where to find solutions that can make a difference. And so thank you to Source Logics, who has also provided some of the prizes for the contest. IoT Marketing has contributed a prize package that has video, PR, and social media prizes, as well as you'll get banners and badges and all different kinds of things. So be sure to confirm your information if you are a winner, and if you were a nominee, then get ready, because we may call on you to say a few words. But before we do that, Ramesh, can you tell us a little more about what they can expect if they are a winner from the US credits?
Absolutely. So number one is we really love this space, so we want to offer, number one, 1 hour free consultation about any IoT projects that you have in mind and platforms that you're thinking of building. And in addition to that, we would offer $250 worth of Amazon credits so that you could use that for your proof of concept and make sure that it comes out right. So we're happy to participate and offer this.
And if you would like to request your 1-hour consultation with SourceLogix and get more information on the AWS credits, you can click right there, and Ramesh will be happy to set up that appointment with you to give you more information.
Right. Awesome.
All right, so without further ado, there are 2 categories. There is the most sustainable IoT solution and the most efficient. And the criteria for the most sustainable solution are categories such as agriculture, ecology, climate change, wildlife protection, toxin monitoring, natural resource protection, waste management, and we had a lot of submissions. So thank you so much to everyone who has submitted, nominated, and been a part of this experience. And the winner for our most sustainable IoT solution is Xylem Water Solutions. And Xylem Water Solutions has an interesting solution that from collection to distribution, they reuse and return to nature their highly efficient water technologies, industrial pumps, and application solutions to not only use less energy and reduce life cycle costs, but also promote sustainability. So congratulations to Xylem. And if you are in the audience, please ping us in the chat so that we can call on you to say a few words here in just a moment. And we also have a few second, third, and we'll also name the other finalists as well that we had really at the top of our list. It was a tough decision. But Shipshape Urban Farms is another one we'd like to give credit to. And they are in second place, so you will also get a badge and some other things from us. So be sure to ping in and let us know how the best way is to contact you to receive those. But they are a digital farmer app that is a UX for monitoring conditions inside an upcycled container outfitted with a 3.4-acre hydroponic farm. Sounds pretty cool, the connected container garden. And the Weeby is an easy-to-install farming solution to track, monitor, and automate and analyze operations efficiently in real time. And I also want to give a shout out to Talus because they will be a part of our data security webinar, but they just had announced a partnership that they have to use recycled plastic from refrigerators to make eSIMs. So I think it's totally cool that they're making SIM cards from eco-friendly materials. So congratulations to all the winners there. Do I have someone here from these companies that maybe would want to say a few words? Okay, let's do it. We'll bring that up here in 1 second. So we'll just go ahead and announce the winners for our efficiency contest, and then we'll put it in Q&A mode so that we can do the Q&A and also hear from the winners. So for this one, we are looking for efficient solutions that drive, reducing the power consumption, reducing the amount of energy needed, the carbon footprint reduction, resource optimization, green computing, data syncing, waste management, and energy storage. And the winner is Blue Planet Energy. Congratulations. And they have a renewable energy storage solution to reduce and eliminate dependence on local utility grids. So congratulations to them. And there are links to their websites within the slide deck. So you'll be able to download that and find out more information. And some runners up we had are at Mosic. And at Mosic has a product it's a product that will make it easy for IoT and consumer product designers and manufacturers to create remote controls, keyboards, and beacons and sensors that have a forever battery life or are completely battery free. Sounds almost too good to be true, but congratulations at Mosic. And then also Ragno Electronics. And Ragno is an end-to-end smart energy solution designed to optimize consumption for smart homes, smart grids, smart agriculture, with applications that also include air, water, solar radiation, and toxin monitoring. So congratulations to all the winners. And one more time, all those winners are on the screen, as well as some other finalists we wanted to give mention to. We had Talus, FieldLogix, TerraCode, Stoke Systems, Tensor Networks, Microland, all such good solutions. So feel free to research those further, and we are so glad to have all those submissions. So lots to research and find out more about those solutions, everyone. And before we go, we've got end-to-end marketing services. We don't just do webinars. We also do pretty much everything under the sun when it comes to marketing, from PR to creating slide decks. If you like the slide deck or you like this presentation, Perhaps you need help producing your own webinar. Well, IoT Marketing is here to help, and we've got a free 30-minute strategy session right there on the screen. We'll talk you through whatever phase of product launch or go-to-market strategy that you're on, and give you some guidance and some tools that you can use, and perhaps suggest some services that we can provide to help you on your journey to success. And so there is a button there if you want to click that to book your appointment. We suggest that you do. And lastly, we've got our upcoming webinars. Come back next month to hear about demystifying data security with Rob Vanderberry and the legendary Steve Brummer, as well as Don Malloy. So that'll be on May 27th. We also have the Future of Smart Travel on June 24th, and Building Smart with IoT on July 29th, as well as the Space Tech Special Edition in August. That's August 26th. And thanks for watching. We have the slide deck available for download. The slide deck will be emailed because it is a little bit too large there, but we do have an infographic for you that you can download now as we switch over to the Q&A. All right. So you can download that. It's green IoT best practices, because in order for there to be green IoT, there also has to be green IT. And so we'll talk about that even further in data security, because a secure network starts with secure IT. So we will be talking about that as well. And without further ado, let's get to these questions. And if any of the winners are present and would like to say a few words, please drop that in the chat as well. All right. Okay. So we had a question prior in the presentation. It was, how do we address the problem of the digital divide where not all farmers are connected? How can we increase their access to markets and solutions? Alexander, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, the first thought that comes to my mind is, again, pretty much what I pointed out earlier. It has to be an issue solved that is big enough for them to attract their interest, and yeah, pretty much like that, I would say.
Okay, Carrie, any thoughts on that one? How to approach the digital divide, maybe not even for farmers, but in any of these examples that we've used today for the environmental or smart cities? Oh, we can't hear you. I don't know. Barry, are you there? Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll have to come back to that one. We've got some other questions here. What are you guys seeing more in farms, NB-IoT or unlicensed LPWAs? Alexander?
Well, I saw that question earlier in the Q&As throughout the forum, and I have to admit I don't even know what both of those means. If you can tell me what.
So NB-IoT is narrowband IoT, which is a massive IoT form of IoT connectivity, where it's little bits of data that are being placed in band. So it's a little bit different than the regular approach to IoT. And unlicensed LPWA refers to unlicensed low power wide area networks. And the difference between the unlicensed versus the licensed is that the licensed are actually for a specific purpose, where if it's unlicensed, then they're using probably like a band of spectrum that's just blocked off for either like experiments or testing or something of that nature. So are you seeing that maybe, is that even a question that's on the farmers' minds, or on part of the deployments for farmers?
I mean, just for the fact that I haven't heard about that before, I don't think that it's on the farmer's mind. I can see that playing a role and being a part when it comes to the development, especially the startups here in California that trying to combine these different technologies from different fields fields. I have a few in mind that I just think about in Silicon Valley that try to bring multiple technologies into agriculture. I can absolutely see them experimenting with those. And but on the farmer side, it's still pretty old school in the majority.
Okay, and another question from our chat today. I've heard a lot of people saying that 5G is having an effect on animals. Is a conspiracy? Is there actual evidence that 5G could affect them? Any takers on this question?
Yeah, well, I'm no expert on this topic. I think we need more data. 5G is still relatively new. Given the amount of networks that we need to have, the short range, the high frequency, the power consumption, there are enough indicators to say that we have to take a close look at the health hazard for both humans as well as animals. And I think we have to be very careful about not rolling it out without really understanding what the health effects are. So I think the jury is honestly out. I've seen as many papers which say the challenges with 5G as much as I've seen, well, it's not a problem. So the jury is out, and we need more data.
And I would agree with that. And I think it's important to test that thoroughly before these 5G networks are turned on to its full potential. So whoever is out there that's listening that may play a pivotal role, please make sure that we do all of our tests in order to make sure that it is safe on the environment and on humans and animals. And so I have another question here from Bill. And he says, are you seeing any new techniques or technologies for doing more work while using less energy? And the short answer of that would be yes. But is there anyone on the panel that would like to take that question?
More work and less energy.
So maybe the providing higher yielding crops could be an example of it, or just, being able to do more with less.
Yes, absolutely. I have a good example for that. There's a really interesting startup down in the Salinas area where I would say the majority of the romaine lettuce and the salads that is distributed in the US is coming from. And so since I mentioned earlier labor being such an issue these days that farmers cannot find enough people who are willing to work on the field and are reliable enough to show up every day and so on. So there's this interesting company that built weeding robots, because weeding used to be a task that could only be done so far by humans, because only the human eye or the brain was able to detect separate weed from the actual plant, the broccoli, whatever it is that you're growing. So, and then having a robot now being able to drive autonomously through the fields back and forth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't care about if the sun shines, if it's raining is not so correct, but if the sun shines, if it's foggy, and it's definitely a showcase for increasing the efficiency that way.
And also the other contestants for our contest, where they're listed for the efficiency category, those companies are definitely focused on doing the reducing and producing through green computing, and you can take a look and further research those. But there were some really interesting solutions there for being able to do more with less. And the last question that I'm seeing up here is, do we have testing results of IoT devices or contacts to equipment providers, disseminating them, e.g. energy supply? It costs an awful lot of time to do all the testing on a project-by-project basis. That's by Bettina. So is there some kind of testing results for IoT devices or contacts to equipment providers, disseminating them for energy supply? Ramesh?
I'm not aware of any on the hardware side, but I do know that there are a lot of testing strategies and making sure that your IoTs are tested, deployed, and they're managed on the software side. But yeah, I think if the other panelists know of the hardware side of the testing, I'd like to know more. But I think software, definitely, we have a lot of options.
All right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up for today. So thank you so much to everyone that tuned in to hear our message and our discussion. And thank you so much to my esteemed panel. You guys are amazing and so brilliant, such great information. And I look forward to the next conversation that we have where we can even dive deeper. Thank you, Carrie.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you,
Thanks for
Ramesh.
having me.
Thank you.
And do we have a queue for anyone that is participating in that was a winner for the contest? We're going to go ahead and pull up the prompt for Ramesh one more time. So if you are a winner, please type in there so that we can make sure to get you your prizes. And again, thank you to IoT Marketing. Thank you, Source Logic. Thank you to everyone involved. Thank you, Johannes Beekman and Jennifer Davis. That is the wrong one, but you can download that. That is our infographic one more time. And also thank you, Rose and Craig and our entire team for making it possible.
All right.
And there you go. So if you are a winner of the contest, please click that so that we have your current information. And I didn't see anyone in the chat saying that they were going to speak. So I guess that's it for today, folks. We'll see you again in May for Demystifying Data Security.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Okay.
for having
Thank
us.
you all.
Right.
Tiffany, great job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
you so
Tiffany.
much.
Really good.
Absolutely,
I hope everyone
Tiffany.
enjoyed it. Thank you. With an ever-expanding number of devices coming online, communicating more data than ever before,